welcome back to the questions where you have the questions and I have the answers. And today we're doing a breakdown of hashtag stop line 3. Before we get started, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I make educational videos and reviews. With that being said, on to the video. Let's first start with what is Line 3? Line 3 is another one of the pipelines that is being built through the US. This one starts in Alberta, Canada, and runs through the US and is supposed to cross multiple bodies of water. It is being created by Enbridge for use of China. So you know how the US goes to the Middle East for oil for our consumption? China is doing that to us. Basically, they're coming to the US for oil for their consumption. So it's like, we are there, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, so any oil that comes from these pipelines is not being used for the US. It's not going to benefit us in any way. It's going to benefit China and Canada, which is the ones who are paying for it and making profit off of this pipeline. This does not benefit the US in any way, and that's what Stop Line 3 is trying to gain awareness of. Not only that, but it's also trying to gain awareness that it is actively harming the US. It is harming the indigenous communities whose homes this pipeline will be running through, and it's severely harming our environment and the climate and will only make climate change worse. This is being done because, as with the other pipelines, it's heavily flawed. Pipelines spill often, even when they say that they are spill proof, that they're never going to break, that there's never going to be a leak, that there's no harm's going to come from it. We know through a long line of history that that's not true. We know in Flint, Michigan, where people's water can catch on fire. Same thing with Texas from fracking in oil, that these, frack outs and these oil spills get into the groundwater, which is, with some communities, main drinking water, and it's no longer of use to them. And so clean water is not a luxury that they can have. And it's very sad that clean water is technically now a luxury in the US and other parts of the world. It's also a matter of indigenous rights, because indigenous communities is where this pipeline is running through. It is a danger to them because, as I said earlier, it is taking up their water supply, so they can no longer grow food, they no longer have access to clean water that's near them, but also because it violates multiple treaty lines. It goes through reservations and through indigenous land granted by treaties that have later been broken, which means that it's crossing international boundaries that the indigenous people in the indigenous community had not agreed to. And this happens because while reservations are a part of the US, like they're in the continent and they're in the country of the US, they don't technically count as United States land, which is why reservations have their own laws and why we don't have jurisdiction there. Our federal or state or local police don't have jurisdiction there once they cross over into tribal land. So by building and constructing this pipeline through native territory, it is violating treaty rights, and it is against the law because they are now fracking and constructing and damaging land that is not the US's. There's also been a lot of call on Justin Trudeau, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, to stop this and for his resignation, because he is the one who is breaking these laws. And while the US is being complicit in this, he is the one who is funding Enbridge, because once again, this is a Canadian pipeline to the US. And the biggest advocates for this pipeline are conservative Republicans who think that we're going to benefit, that it's going to bring jobs to them when it's not, and think that the oil is going to go to our consumption when it's not. It only hurts us, and that is what hashtag Stop Line 3 is. It's an effort to halt construction and to implore the Canadian government and Enbridge Company to clean up the damage that they have already done, as they've already had multiple frack outs before the pipeline's even completed. It's also an indigenous rights issue, not only because it violates treaty, which we do basically in our sleep, the US. Not only does it violate treaties, but also it creates man camps and labor camps near indigenous reservations, which have a direct correlation with the missing and murdered indigenous women cause. Many indigenous women and two-spirits go missing and end up murdered, and no one cares to look for them, and they have the highest rate of, missing and murdered status of any ethnic or religious group or racial group in the United States, and we hear basically nothing about it. And this is direct correlation to the man camps, because now you bring foreigners, usually white, into these closed off communities, and they see them as objects. They see indigenous women, indigenous people as mascots and objects and not people. And so they're just taken from the street, from their own homes, from their own communities. And the federal government isn't looking for them, the local government doesn't care, and tribal governments don't have the resources to search for these people, nor do they have the jurisdiction to search outside of their own, reservation, which is a very limited amount of land and has a lot of holes in it because of the Dawes Act, which I'm not going to get into. But if you want to hear about it, please comment below if you want to hear and have a video about the Dawes Act. And so that's why hashtag StopLine3 is becoming so prominent, is because it is reaching critical levels of dangerous, where they've already had multiple leaks, multiple frackouts, and have already drained an entire lake, so much so that the indigenous communities that relied on that lake are no longer able to plant their crops there. They no longer derive water from there. And it's not just indigenous communities, but it's main counties and main cities as well, because it's supposed to cross the Missouri River multiple times. And that is the main river, and as you know, we create our civilizations wherever it is best to irrigate and to farm. So there are a lot of people living near the Missouri River, living in that area, who no longer have access to clean water. And once it reaches and it's affecting those bigger cities, those bigger states, it will have been too late. And so that's what StopLine3 is about. Is it's already affecting indigenous communities, but they're trying to stop before it completely wipes them out and before it affects the rest of the nation. Because by the time mainstream media will get attention to this, it's already going to be too late. That being said, there are ways that you can help. If you click on, hashtag StopLine3, if you click on water protectors through TikTok or through Instagram, you can find multiple resources on how to donate to water protectors who are on the front lines, how you can go out there yourselves and stand and protest the construction of this line. And if you can, find and Venmo people who are in the front lines. They're looking for bail money, they're looking for hotspots for Wi-Fi, for multiple resources, because even though they are on indigenous land, our police, who have been hired by Enbridge, are going into these reservations and arresting water protectors, which is unlawful because they have no jurisdiction there. And in most cases, they stay and arrest people who are not part of the protests. They arrested a group who were having a sacred ceremony in full regalia that were not explicitly part of the protests, and they are now in jail too. And a lot of them cannot afford to pay bail for being arrested illegally. So please do what you can. Share this information, share this video. It is very, very important and vital to our survival as human beings, but also to their survival as a nation and as a people, that Line 3 is stopped. Thank you for your time. So long, and thanks for all the fish, and be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes.